afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Congress of Consistency. My programs, issues and reality. The program, just politics. Today I will meet somebody from my new constituency, the constituency of the youth. Madam Ibraheem Abdullateef, popularly known as Egghead, SSA the SSA communication to the Kwara State government, and also a member of the presidential capital of the APC, that is the Tinubu Chetima Renewed Hope Movement. So today we'll be talking, we're wearing two gaps. We talk about the governance of Kwara State, and today is the politics. We talk about the political situation and then what everybody should expect in the forthcoming 2023 general election. And also, we'll try to diversify and talk national and make it a bit domestic, talk about the states in particular. You're welcome on the show.
Thank you so much.
To begin with, as I said, it is without for me when somebody from my constituency comes, and I hope I always try to make sure that we lead our constituency proud because we all belong to the same constituency. But start with you and the government. You're wearing a lot of government students. You're now a member of the presidential capital of the APC. But let's start with that. You were an integral, I will call you an integral part of the political movement. 2018, 2019 election, you booted out and you erected leaders. Now you are now in the government of OPD. So what would you say the experience looks like from the struggle to the success and then the administration?
Well, thank you so much for that question. I think the Otoge revolution would stand in the history of the state as one of the best decisions we have ever taken because it was the child of necessity, was what exactly this state needed to do, and I'm glad that the people of Kwara State did do so. You just need to look back and imagine how things were and how it could have gotten worse if drastic action like that wasn't taken. And for me, I'm happy that I was part of history. I'm happy that I played my role. I'm happy especially that the youth constituency were on the front burner of that very important decision in our history. And when I look back, if I had been on the other side, if I had been on the part of the people who were blocking the pathway of our state to change and liberation, I would be very sad today because I wouldn't want history to record me that way. But thankfully, I was on the right path, and like we are saying today, posterity is judging, and I also believe that posterity will even judge us, better than we think, because we did right by our people, we did right by our state, we did right by our country, and if I'm presented with another opportunity again, I would do just that, because I've never been happier for doing anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But like you said, posterity. Whether we like it or not, posterity is very long first. And in less than 4 weeks now, we go to the poll. Choose a new president, choose a new government. But let's talk about the Kwara State as we started. Would you say that posterity is in the favor of this administration? Would you say that better with their chairman, they have been able to bring about the change, the positive change the people were yearning for?
I believe absolutely that Kwara State has moved several miles from where it used to be. You just have to look back and and take a deep breath, and look at what exactly the form of things before this administration came on board. Let's start, for instance, from the issue of education. Look at it from the basic education sector. We were having a state that had failed to access the UBEC fund. which could have been, source of investment in basic education sector. And what was the impact? We saw that practically all the schools in the state were in dilapidated condition. We saw that as at that time, our students were already writing and failing WAEC to the point that we were fined over 30 million naira for examination malpractice. We also saw that as at that time, we had teachers that were incredibly unqualified for the position, they were holding. So we saw the impact on our basic education sector, which simply means that we weren't doing well in education. And it was part of the reasons why people said Otoge in 2019, because we could see how far our neighboring state had gone in the area of basic education. Now, take a peek. Also at tertiary education, you would remember that virtually all the colleges of education were on strike because they were owed about 6 months salaries before this government came on board. When this administration came on board, His Excellency Governor of Kwara State had to part with over 700 million naira to ensure that the welfare of the teachers, the welfare of the lecturers were taken care of, and they could be so encouraged to go back to class. So when I talk about education, what would you think if we had not do together like we did? What did you think we have left in the area of basic education and tertiary education sector? It was practically dead, right? But looking back, looking at it now, you can see the difference from a state that was in the blacklist of UBEC and that would not even put any investment in its basic education. You have now, been able to access 7 billion naira. First of all, the governor paid the debt that was incurred by the former administration. Then he applied for fresh fund from the UBEC, and it was granted, which gave us funds to the tune of 7 billion naira to invest in our basic education sector. And what are the impacts? You could see, thank God, as a journalist, that over 600 schools had been started for renovation. And you could also see that Kwara, for the first time in our history, had a fair, open and just recruitment process that afforded us the employment of over 4,000 teachers. And then when you also look at it from a state that was practically fined over 30 million naira for examination malpractice in the national or regional examination called WAEC, we are now a state that participates in national and international competition and brings home laurel for outstanding performances. The case in point was the one we attended in 2021, the presidential national debate, and Kwara happened to emerge as the first school in the whole country. We did the giants like Kaduna, Lagos, along the way to scoop that gong. And it didn't stop at that. We also were selected to represent the country on the global scene. So if you look at it as a juxtaposition, if you want to do some extrapolation, you will see that from a state that was being blacklisted by UBEC, fined by WAEC, Kwara has now become a state that participates in national and international competition and bring home laurels. It's a significant improvement, a significant development that you can look at and feel justified that you participated in Otoge and it is worth it. Now, you might want to look at what I do. So, what was the rate of access to water before the advent of this administration? We want to look at it. So, was the usual practice that every weekday, something like Thursday or thereabout, there was already a designated day that government would announce on radio that from so point to so point, we are coming to distribute water for you, and then you see tankers lying on the street, and you see people come out in large numbers fighting their way through the sea of bodies to make sure that they are able to get water that will maybe last them for a whole week. It was horrendous. It was terrible. It was the most horrible experience for any people to have in the whole world, to be denied access to basic amenities like water. Despite the humongous, debilitating amount of money that was already being sucked into it. But
as it were, that was where we find ourselves. But look at it now, under 3.5 years, under this government, access to water, rate has improved tremendously. And this is not because of magic. It has to do with the willpower, with the candor, with the commitment, with the focus of the governor, Madam Abraham Abrasa, to ensure that our people do not have to suffer that kind of ignoble treatment whereby they would lack water, which ensures that we have now fixed in 3 years over 14 water works to ensure that access to water increase, and also places where they didn't even used to have water, like Ibadan, like some areas in Ofa, are now being provided with water, which has now ballooned the access to water rate in Kwara State. So for us, these were the things that led to Otoge, and these are the things that we are doing. Now, I've mentioned education, I've mentioned water. You can also look at, something around youth empowerment and development. A lot of people will make noise and say, what's the governor doing and that, but it's the change that we need. I'm happy today that Kwara is not lacking. Kwara is not found wanting among committee of state and nations that are taking fantastic steps towards empowering sustainably its youth and also facilitating opportunities for them in leadership and government. I hope that you agree with me that what we have today is a youth wave. All across the world, we are seeing young people becoming president, House of Reps member. We are seeing young people holding strategic executive positions, which speaks to the fact that the time has come for young people to come of age and be given opportunity to serve and lead their society, their community, and country. That's what the Kwara State government is doing. I'm a prime example. You look at me clearly, you can see that I'm a very young fellow, and there are also other fantastic people in this government that you can see, like Abdullateef. He heads the one of the most important agencies of this government today. You see SSA Youth Engagement, Mrs. Kausar Ade. You see several other people that are very young.
Commissioner of Communication.
Commissioner for Communication. It's 28-year-old. Kwara today stands as the state that has given the youngest person that an opportunity to serve as commissioner in the country. We still hold that gum today with in the person of Honorable Joanna Kolo. She was 26-year-old when she was appointed in 2020. These are fantastic records that this administration now takes pride in. But what did we used to have? What did we used to have? I put it to you today that we never had, between 2015 to 2019, anyone who was below 30 as a commissioner, not even 35 as a commissioner. We could barely find anyone who was below 30 and was leading a powerful agency in the state. Before 2019, this is the most shocking part of it. This state did not even have an institutionalized program for the empowerment of young people in the state. There never was anything like that. So, what was the youth constituency taking for before the advent of this government? What was their place? Who were they? What did the government and the leaders they elected think they were? To me, the people before us, the party before us, the government before us, did not have plans for young people in the state. The people before us, the party before us, the leaders before us did not think young people deserve any opportunity to thrive in life. It just felt like what was their place was to be used as tools for hooliganism and as tools for numbers in electioneering period. But this has changed today. We now have several people, young people, manning strategic positions. We now have a program called Kwarapreneur that is now meant for the empowerment of young people in business and enterprises. I'm sure you must have been to one or two occasions, one or two editions of Kwarapreneur, and you see the wonders Kwara State government is doing with it. You see the numbers, the money people are going on with. It speaks to change. It speaks to impact. It speaks to development that people craved in 2019, which they are now getting today. So you might also want to look at health. Well, a lot of people do not agree when we say that our investment in health sector has led to a significant improvement in health sector, and they want to say, well, what have you done differently? But it's not about building skyscrapers that gives development to a community. For instance, what essentially gives development to the community is the ability of leadership to instill confidence, ability of leadership to build efficiency around a system, so that people, would be so glad to be part of it, and so that the system would be able to take care of the needs of the people. And that's what Kwara State government has done. Well, you want to look at it. Before we came on, but there were practically so many PHCs and cottage hospitals that were done in dilapidated condition. Well, I want to show you one. You see St. Agboro Hospital that was being fixed by the government right when we came on board. You see Alanamu, see a PHC in Alanamu. I think there is another one in I don't know. No, I think we didn't do the one at Bandawaki. But practically all across the state, in almost all the local government, there is hardly any area you get to that you will not see a PHC on an hospital that is being done or being fixed by this government. It speaks to our focus, it speaks to the direction we want to take. That access to healthcare facilities should be qualitative, should be accessible, and should be affordable for the people. And one of the ways we want to go about that is to ensure that the facilities are there, and to ensure that whenever people attend, they get care as might be needed. What do we have? We now have data says that from annual attendance in public health service that was put before we came at I think 54,000 before we came. We now see today that it has jumped to over 300,000 in public health service. It speaks to the public confidence. It speaks to the increase in the belief of our people in this system that the government is building. And you can also see some other change, like the establishment of the ICU, and then you can also see the construction of the new VIP wards. You can also see the direction government is trying to take with the Kwara State Management Board to ensure that efficiency, service delivery, and the access to health, quality health, is deepened in the state. This is the direction we are taking, and the impact are there. This administration takes the glory, we take the pride as one who has now made happen today the Kwara State Health Insurance Agency. As I speak to you, it has over 51,000 beneficiaries under its belt that are enjoying, these health care opportunities, which was never in place before this administration came on board. So when we talk about what we have done in health, we know what we have done, and we thank God that people are feeling in today. So I've mentioned about five critical areas that stand today as the measure of development indices anywhere in the world, that this administration is now doing fantastically well in, better than we meant it. Yeah, a lot of people might also want to say what's the trend of our economy under this administration. We are not doing badly by any standard. I'm not sure if you are aware of the data that was put out by Kwasima recently, which stated that the number of manufacturing industries has risen from 43 in 2019 to 77 in 2022. Is that not a significant increase in the number of industries that we used to have? You also might want to look at it from the angle of revenue generation. In 2019, our administration, together with the former one, ensured that this state has the highest revenue generated in the state, which was put at 30 billion naira. You can say we had to do that together. But in 2020, there was COVID and there was some drop in the internet generated revenue of the state, which was actually national, if not global, because economy was practically on paralysis. But what happened in 2021? We generated 26 billion naira internet generated revenue in 2021, which may speak to the fact that this administration is doing fantastically well at widening the tax net and building an efficient system that encourages payment of tax and also allows the government to grow its IGR basis in the state. Now, what we have in 2022, I'm very sure Kwara State Internal Revenue Service will put out the data for internal generated revenue.
2021.
I said we got 26 billion.
2021?
Yes.
No.
We did.
No.
We did.
In 2021?
Yeah, we did.
You said 2020.
2020 was 19 billion.
2021?
26 billion.
Alright.
I tell you. So, 2022 data will soon be put out by internally generated revenue. But the truth is, we have surpassed our target for 2022. So, which speaks to the fact that it's a positive billing that we have recorded in 2022 too. So, if an economy is doing well, we can gauge it by the number of industries he has, by the number of jobs that are being created, by the increase in IGR that is being experienced in the state. Well, what do we have in the job sector? We are proud about that too. This administration is doing fantastically well in the area of job creation. You might want to look at the MBS data, quarter 3 2018, which preceded our administration, that states that the unemployment rate in Kwara before the advent of this administration was 21%. But what do we have? You might want to look at the new data that is being put out by the MBS and even budget. The unemployment data in Kwara today states 16.6%. Is that not a significant reduction? We have several other states that their unemployment indices has gone up from where they met it. But on our part, it's reduced. It speaks to the fact that we are doing fantastically well in managing the economy and managing the state in general to ensure that the welfare and well-being of our people is okay, is fine, is free and easy to live. So that's what we are doing. So when you are talking about Autoget, you might want to look at the things that led to the to Autoget, and you might want to gauge just by what data says, about the changes and development that we have been able to record. And these are facts that speak for themselves. Facts are stubborn things. They speak for themselves. They stare you right in the face and make you look stupid when you want to lie. But I'm able to say all of these things, which they are easily verifiable, which they are easily accessible, because this governor, Madam Abraham Abdullateef, has done very well. And we do not even need to there's no how anybody can try to undermine that, because the facts are there.
Well, thank you very much. You talked about almost everything, but you want to help me because you wear 3 boots. You're from the Lorry.
Yes, I am.
People talk a lot.
Yeah.
You are a journalist. Journalists talk a lot. You're a spokesperson. There's a difference between being a spokesperson and being a journalist. And your work is to talk. But please, you to consider a time. You are wearing 2 clothes. I told you, you are a representative of the Tinubu Shetima campaign here. And so now let's start with the education. You talk about you said you're from my constituency. I know that you and I we would have been in school. I'm not saying same year, but at the same time, like we know what we saw in our public schools. We know where we met them. And would you say that construction of new classes were new to us?
So I would tell you that if those had been done, this administration would not be starting from that point. That's number one. I would also tell you that this administration is not just constructing schools, if you forgot. Let me remind you that we also take the pride in recruiting over 4,000 teachers that are judged as qualified and competent for the job. So you might also want to look at what we are doing with the revolutionary Kwara Land, which is helping the government introduce technology into our method of teaching. I think Kwara is today the 3rd state to have that kind of program, only after Edo and Lagos State. So when I'm surprised, you might want to say that this government may just be fixing schools alone, but it's far from reality.
No.
Let me also.
No. You see, I want to make it easy for the two of us, so that we'll be able to cover as many ground as possible. That's why I started with the construction of new classes. We say construction of new classes. I take one in education. I'm still coming in education. Take one. Would you say that construction of new classrooms is new to us?
No, not at all. But this administration is not just constructing classrooms.
I will go there. Now, you talk about quality teaching. If my father was a teacher, my mother was a teacher, I know about this teaching profession, and I can tell you for free that 7 of my brothers, one is a lecturer, working for government, Kwara State government. I mean, 6 are either primary or secondary school teachers. A lot of my aunties, I have them. When we talk about, when the Kwara State is a civil servant state, I can come out and say that my family is a civil servant family. But there is before the advent of this administration, there were things that were done, put in place, because I think your administration, let me say your party believe that the past administration actually left routes for you to climb. Is that the ideology?
I would ask you to go ahead with your questions.
All right. Now, in 2015, I mean in 2007, 2008, there was quality assurance examination that was introduced, and then it was realized that even the teachers do not understand the things some of the teachers do not understand things they were supposed to teach, like simple tests. The same thing was done in Kaduna not quite long ago, and we all know the brouhaha that came out, the NLC saying you can't just lay them off and all those things. But back in those days, when we talk about education funding, you've talked about building of classrooms, you talk about Kwara Lane, you talk about all those things, and then quality assurance. But that the administration in those days tried to do a retraining thing, and then injected them back into the system, and now people were there, and then they were even paid for attending the trainings because they knew that it was not easy to get these people out, and then add them to the already bulky, insecure, unemployed population. So they did that, and then things were going on, and then there were classrooms that were built, and then there was a very, very strong quality assurance. If none is really open to us, we know that at the mention of Bolaji, everybody knew what the name Bolaji meant when you and I were in schools, where the people of my age were in school. So would you say that the administration really left road when concerning education?
Thank you so much. I will tell you what we meant. This administration came on board in 2019. Yeah. So I would ask you, was Kwara not fined by WAEC? Or Kwara students not fined by WAEC for examination malpractice?
Thank you very much. Kwara students were fined by WAEC
for examination malpractice.
Yeah.
Wait, was that not true?
I said yeah.
Okay. Before we came on board, you look around you, were Kwara schools, most Kwara schools in good state?
Okay.
No.
Listen, please.
Okay.
The question is relative. You see, I would have wanted to have a spokesperson of of other persons.
Yeah, you can reschedule this.
No, we can do it again. But what I want to say
here,
but what I want to say here is that I think to a very large extent I have the privilege to check some facts. There were remodelings before this administration.
Okay.
Like what your government did in high school.
Okay.
A collective remodeling of the schools, giving it the new look. What you did in IGS, if I'm not mistaken, GSS, and the likes. But back then, there was remodeling in Babu Community Secondary School. There was remodeling in Okekere. Okeleni.
Okay.
Secondary School. There was remodeling in Ansaru. Islam Secondary School. The Ansaru Islam, yes.
Okay.
These things are things we have seen before.
Okay.
They are not things that dropped out of the moon. You talked about the funding, please.
Now let me answer your question. Let me answer your question. Thank you so much. So this state today has over 2,000 schools.
Okay.
Okay. Out of the 2,000 schools, when there was some sort of examination, some sort of research, some study into it, was discovered that a whole lot of them, the majority of the schools, were in bad and dilapidated conditions. And you may also try to look back in 2019 and see around you, and see what was at stake. Now, you may also try to look at the fact that at a go, the government has to fix over 600 schools. At a go, imagine, at a go, the government has to fix over 600 schools. It speaks to the rot we were talking about. Alan, you mentioned Bolaji Abdullahi. Can you please remind me when last Bolaji Abdullahi served as commissioner for education? In 2011.
Yes.
So you might want to look at the years after 2011.
Okay.
2011 to 2019. How many years would that be? So you
That is 8 years.
So for 8 years, a lot had gone wrong.
I'm saying that.
So if we say we met, I'm not even saying it, but if some people said that Kwara State was practically in rot before this administration came, I do not think, especially in the education sector, I do not think they were wrong.
You speak for the administration of Governor Ibraheem.
I'm telling you.
There are inscriptions that it does not take 4 years. 4 years is not enough to collect 16 years of rot.
Was it signed by me?
I'm saying you speak. Okay, are you saying you disagree with the inscription?
I'm telling you that the inscription is not my problem. I'm going to say what my principal says. I'm going to say what my principal means.
You see.
So
this thing is very, very easy. It's very, very easy.
Okay.
Are you saying that you do not agree that it was a 16 years of rot?
I'm telling you what we met.
Okay,
That
fine.
When this administration came on board, when we came on board,
sir, you have a lot.
colleges of education was short.
We have the return.
Basic education sector
We'll get there.
was in sample. So that's what we met.
Colleges of education now.
Yeah.
They were short. Oro, Lafiaji, Ilorin, KIS, Kwara College of Science and Islamic Studies. They were short. Your government did well, brought them back to class, and fine. But do you agree with me that not quite long ago there were protests in College of Education in Ilorin that teachers were not paid, that some of their year-end packages have been squandered, allegedly have been squandered. There was a public protest. What would you say to that?
Well, you see the problems that are happening in Kuwait, right? Like a carryover of the issues that we met on ground. Were not fresh ones, and that is to speak to the rot you do not want people to reference.
Okay.
I tell you today, the administration does not owe College of Education staff a dime. It was not the same.
Are you saying this is authoritative?
Yes, you do not owe them salary. There is a system in place.
Okay.
So what they do, I think they self-fund themselves in some sort of arrangement with the government. The government only give them bailout and to augment whatever it is that they have with them, and that's how it is being run.
Okay.
That's how
you see what I was saying.
So
what the government says subvention. What the government does is subvention, right?
Yes.
But what if I tell you that these schools do not have the capacity? If that is the arrangement, what if I tell you that these schools do not have the capacity? They are owing salaries. I'm putting that to you for a fact now. In College of Education in Ilorin, I'm
how many salary are we looking at so that I can take you serious too?
So look here. Do we have to talk about the number of the months?
No,
it is about the
I'm telling
disparity.
You that I'm not aware that staff are being owed in College of Education in Ilorin.
Okay, yes,
I want me to believe that they are owed salary. So I need to ask you how many months are we looking at so that we can both be sure.
Honorable, let us not talk about things you're not aware of. Now let's talk about things you are aware of.
Okay.
You talked about water resources.
Yes.
Water regulation program in Ilorin, in Kwara General. The Asadam and the Agbadam thing, I think they started towards the tail end of the 20th century. Now, a lot of things have been done, and as you are growing with, good governance is a continuous thing. It's not an end, it's a means. But here we are. Governor Alabila, you and I, when we were growing up, almost everywhere you get to in the road, you see the Uplawa reservoirs, almost everywhere. He did his bit. When Governor Saraki came in, he did his bit. There was a maximization. I don't really have the real numbers currently, but from some millions to some other millions that were it was contracted out to a foreign company, and then a new millions of kegs was added, and then we can get. I honestly will tell you that, and then maybe we're very young, maybe we were not engineers, but I heard that even there are pipelines, water pipelines somewhere around Pakata, and then maybe. But this is it. Towards the tail end of the last administration, honestly, I know what you're talking about. But are you saying that your government has spent so much money to reduce this thing? And I will tell you one other thing. In the community where I live, the community is not a big community, but virtually every household has a borehole to themselves. We still have to depend on, getting water for ourselves. In the community that I live in the middle of Ilorin, I don't live in the outskirts. So today, and even in those days, we have days maybe on weekends. In my community back then, we get water on weekends. Friday, Saturday, I vividly remember we would not sleep on Friday to Saturday because that was the day they give us water. But today, I'm not seeing pipe running water. All we see is, I don't know, maybe some other places are getting, but in my own community, we used to get it.
Where is your community?
I'm from Agbaji.
You don't see water in Agbaji?
Yes, I can tell you for free that you can come to verify. Almost every household has a borehole. We don't really even wait for the government. Let's say that we're used to what the past government did and then we were not getting water, and then but really now we don't really seem to care anymore because the water is not even coming.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
To say water is not running in Kwara today.
I'm not saying water is not running
in
Kwara. Okay, where I come from.
Yeah, maybe. There could be some sort of issue.
Okay.
You know? There could be some sort of issue which I'm also going to confirm when I live here.
Okay.
But I'm telling you categorically that there are now better access to water within Ilorin metropolis. We have run several documentaries about it, where people give testimonies to water running in their community. So maybe, like you said, there could be some issue in your area. But even as at last week in Ogidi, the commissioner for water resources was saying that water is being restored and several other things. It happens that a certain community we have water, then there will be like some issue or something.
Maybe I'm speaking for my community. Maybe please, when you get to the office,
like I said, I'm going to confirm if water is not truly running.
Well, when you get to the office, just say that somebody challenged you, and then if water is running.
But I want you to believe that if this situation that existed before had not been tackled to a great extent, you will still be seeing what you used to see in the past. The fact that it has disappeared today speaks to significant improvement, which nobody can talk down.
When your government came in, did you have to take tanker around?
When we came on board,
did you have to?
No, we didn't. Water was not running.
Are you saying that the moment you get to the office, you just blow to the wind, and then the question of
taking
tanker around, and then it disappeared?
I think it should be that you didn't listen to me earlier. I said we started fixing water works. I said, as of today, this administration has fixed over 14 water works across the state. So it seems to me like you didn't listen earlier.
I only talked about that because it's a basic thing.
So I put that to you again.
Okay, now
so I put that to you
again. You talked about the economy, and then you said that Kwara State's unemployment. Seriously, please, I'm not disputing this, but I don't have the numbers.
Okay.
What if that's the numbers? I'm very happy.
You can please
that is far below the national average.
Yes,
which makes me happy because maybe that's one of the reasons why we have harmony. Maybe hooliganism is not rampant in Kwara, maybe kidnapping is not rampant in Kwara as it is almost everywhere in the country. But here is it. You talked about KWRs. A very big statement as alleged the government of making more than 90 billion naira in IGR between 2019 to 2021. The calculation you did is not even up to 18 billion naira. What do you say to that?
Well, as journalists, I think we should not be given to frivolous allegations from people that are not to be considered as authority in the area of revenue generation and economy. As I speak to you today, what the state government generated in 2019 when we came on board is officially 30 billion naira. You can ask people or you can make your independent finding. What was generated in 2020 was 19 billion naira.
Okay.
What was generated in 2021 was 26 billion naira. Now, if you do not agree with me, kindly look at the budget state of state report for year 2020, 2019, and even 2022, these facts are there. What each state generates as their revenue year in, year out. It is stated here.
For the purpose of democracy.
So I'm telling you categorically that do not be given to lies and rumors from people that are not authority.
I'm just confirming.
These are facts, and this is what everybody agree with.
You speak for the government.
Yeah.
He's a state man, and he said that he challenged your government to a debate. At the point your government agreed to go for the debate, and at the time turned around to say, no, we're not coming. It's jittery and lazy and all of that. What would you say to that? When you decided, when your administration, I would say your administration, okay, when someone in your administration decided to challenge the man to a debate, then why don't we go on for the debate?
Because he wasn't ready.
He was not ready.
Yes, let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Time.
Okay.
Yeah, please,
he wasn't ready.
Okay, exactly. I love that kind of answer. Okay. Now, it's still on the economy. I was expecting you to talk about infrastructure.
Okay.
I was expecting you, but please, I will talk about something now. You have to talk about infrastructure. Your government has secured a debt of more than 50 billion.
Okay.
When you came in.
More than 50 billion?
Yeah.
No, it's not true. It's not true.
Okay.
What this administration considers as a debt is not up to 50 billion naira.
Okay, how much?
Okay. Our loan refinancing facility was 18 billion, I think 18.6.
Alright.
That was offered to all states by the federal government.
Okay.
Then this administration sought for bond of 27.2 billion naira.
Alright.
That's it.
Okay, sought for bond. Okay, 27.2. Let's say, please, 27.2 billion naira plus 18 billion naira.
Yeah,
makes
not up to 50 billion.
It's not up to 50 billion. Okay, now please. Listen, 27.2. I don't. 27.2 billion. Let's say 27 billion naira plus 18 billion naira.
Yeah.
It makes how much?
27. That's
that makes 45 billion naira.
Yes.
Now, your government, in the process of, is the process of accessing the UBEC fund, went out to borrow 7.1 billion naira.
Yes.
That should be added. It's a debt.
Who told you that this government borrowed?
Hey, sorry.
No, it's a shocker, really.
It's not a shocker.
But who told you that this government borrowed 7 billion naira?
Okay, this is a
No. I'm asking you.
We know. Listen.
That this government borrowed 7 billion naira
listen.
to access the bank fund.
Listen. To access your bank fund, you have to pay counterpart fund.
Yeah.
You have to pay 50%. 100% of what you have to access.
Yeah.
Your government paid 100% of 14.2 billion naira.
So does it mean that it was borrowed?
Okay, how did the money came about?
What I'm telling you today is that we never put out any official statement to the effect that we borrowed so amount to access the bank fund.
How did the counterpart funding came about?
The government didn't borrow. It is settled. We handled it from the government purse.
How did is it from KWRS? Is it from the allocation? Is it from?
There are a lot of.
Is it from the grant? Okay.
There are several. No, you do not expect that from me. There are several stream of revenue for the government.
I'm inquiring.
No, I'm telling you.
I deserve to know where you get the money to access the UBEC fund.
I am telling you that the government doings is not
for the public.
No, I'm just saying that the government doing is not like Mary Jane, like just open the door and close it. I'm telling you that what they call government is government. And so what I can tell you, for the public, is that cannot count as an addition to because this government didn't borrow any 7 billion naira.
Is it a government for the government or a government for the people?
By the virtue of theory and what we practice, this government is Ijoba Mekunu, the government for the people.
It's a government for the masses.
Yeah.
Now, as one of the masses, I'm asking you, where did your government get the 7.1 billion naira to access the 14.2 billion naira counterpart fund?
I have answered you that
it is not for the public to know.
I have answered you that this government, you made an allegation first, don't forget, and I had to correct you.
Okay.
That is never been put anywhere as some part of
do you think
loans this administration.
I will tell you that I still maintain that your government has more than 50 billion naira loan. If you refuse to tell us where you get the 7.1 billion naira from,
I'm telling you to be careful as a journalist. Journalists are not given to lies and fabrication.
I don't give to lies.
So you have to tell me where you have found over 50 billion naira. Please explain to me.
Okay, now we have done the calculation now.
So
okay, for you to break the bank.
I asked for your source that this government has any 7 billion naira as part of it.
I asked for your source as where this government got 7.1 billion naira to access.
I
know. You see, this is an argument.
No, it's not an argument.
You have the free flow.
It's not an argument.
You have an easy way to win.
Session. I represent the government.
Okay,
I made an allegation and I've clarified.
No, that's not
no 7 billion naira loan in
where the government
has borrowed is 45 billion naira.
Where did the government get the 7.1 billion naira from?
You might just want to ask us that what does the governor eat every day, where does he sleep, and who does he meet? Because it's practically not following. What the government tells you is that it didn't borrow any 7 billion naira to access UBEC funds. What you are supposed to do as a journalist is to now find out if it was borrowed or not, so you can fact check it. Okay. Now,
as a government, as a father, a child deserves to know that, sir, I heard that you incurred the debt. Tell me where the money comes from.
We did not incur any debt in the first place, so this should not arise.
Your debt, your government's debt, you said it stands at 45 billion naira?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I think, please, it's another ball game entirely. You talked about all the things. Listen, please don't see this as an advisory things. Okay. It's just to test the water and test the feeling of everybody in the country, everybody in the state, whether they agree with the government or not. Now, let's talk about politics. Yeah. Election is here. It's not now here. INEC said they're prepared and everything. What do you think is the chances of the principal?
Well, Ibraheem as the candidate of All Progressive Congress, is the man to beat in the 2023 elections. It is his election to lose. You know, he's been governor for over 3.5 years, and then he is the most competent, he's the most credible, he's the most experienced for this role. So it is only normal that people consider him, you know, as the best man for the job. And when I ask you,
Malam, time please.
Okay, so for us, the people of Kwara State, and I believe for the government of Kwara State and for our party, we believe strongly that we are going to win the 2023 election, because we have now taken people from the bad past to a stable present and the hope for a very beautiful future. The period of 2015 to 2019 represents the most horrible period for the people of Kwara State.
Are you saying that 2019 is not 20, it's not 16 years?
I am telling a story. Okay? I am telling a story. A story could have started 1 million years before, but I'm telling you the part that I'm most interested
about this 16 years inscription?
Because I will talk about what I think is important at the moment.
All right, sir.
So what's important at the moment for the people of Kwara State is to go forward. The period of 2015 to 2019 represents the most horrible period in our history. It was the period where the civil servants were practically owed salary. It was the period where young people had no direction. It was the period when our state was running on a very troubling oligarchy form of system, where if you had to do anything, had to go anywhere, you had to pass through a certain system or a certain people before you can get people. It was a period when everybody who wants to become somebody has to know somebody, you know, to get whatever that person dreams for or want. But for us today, after Otoge, I'm sure the people of Kwara State can now feel the fresh breath. They can now see the fresh air. We now see the new lease of life for civil servants. We now see the freedom for young people. We now see what we are being called for in the national and international level. Kwara is now winning award left, right, and center for positive reasons. In the past, it wasn't so. It was usually us being featured in the pages of newspaper for having cases with EFCC, for fighting National Assembly, and several other bad things you do not want to talk about. So for us, as an administration, we are fixing education. We have recorded tremendous progress in health. We have done well in the area of women and youth development. This administration also takes the art for outstanding performance in critical infrastructure, and for us it speaks so loud that we are going to be considered normally to continue the good work that we have started from 2019. You know, as a governor, as the most experienced candidate, as a proven performer, people will naturally gravitate towards you to continue your job because they want development, because they want progress, because they want stability. And it gets even clearer when you look at the level of opposition candidates that are being offered. One is practically auditioning for the role of an executive assistant that is calling governor, while we have someone who is practically just coming of age and is only being dreamful and unnecessarily ambitious. So we are only left with one person that we can call a performer, credible and competent leader who has been there before and has done well, who has been tested, trusted and found to be reliable, to be voted in 2023. So we are not bothered at all. We are not perturbed by the noises of some people that have now exposed themselves as people who are only after personal gains and not the general development of the people. But for the people of Kwara State, virtually all what they said Otoge for in 2019 are being done, are being achieved, and I've enumerated them earlier. So it's only normal that they go forward with the government. And for us, this is the year of going forward, and we represent the forwardness of this state. Thank you.
Please, I want to ask you a question. I want you to answer me within 1 minute.
Okay.
You said virtually. I understand semantics to a very large extent. I know what virtually means.
Okay.
But all, virtually all, I know that it doesn't mean all. But one of the things you said to get to was, what do we call it? There was this political word, I've forgotten the registered word, but this impunity. The major one your campaign shouted about was the autonomy of the local government. Are the local government autonomous today?
Well, Kwara is not found wanting by the NFIU, which speaks to the financial autonomy of the local government administration system. So as far as we are concerned, we have a clean bill of health in that direction. Now, we want to talk about the other side of it that has to do with conducting election and all. We have constantly, given our story out that, well, we do not essentially, like the form it has taken and the situation it is in, but it is not by our design. When you have a court case, when you have to wait for the judgment to be delivered, and before you can do the right thing, as being demanded by the court. So, as you might want to put it, like I said, this is not our design. We do not take pride in this, but it has happened. It is how it is, and we have constantly tried to explain and also seek understanding of our people. Sometimes we plead, when it is necessary, and that's what we think is done. It should be done.
I just know that you will not tell your child at home that he or she talks too much. But one thing is that you missed your 1 minute. But one other thing, a former Attorney General in the state under your administration said that you were working on an out-of-court settlement with the quasi-sexual encroachment. But that was the end of it. That was the last thing we had. Everybody wanted to see this autonomy. I understand that we don't have issue with the NFIU, but TIC is illegal and illegal. Your governor is son of a lawyer, one of the most reputable in the history of this country. But people have it like this. For the past over a year now, we heard about an out-of-court settlement with the people involved, and then there was no update on that till date, and maybe we will not have an election. I mean, a local government election before the close of this tenure. So, what do you think about that?
Well, like I said earlier, the situation that we have is not one that is, that is particularly exciting. But it's a child of necessity.
You speak for the governor.
But it's a child.
I want to ask you, speak for the governor now.
Okay.
Did you work on an out-of-court settlement?
Well, I know when there is a matter in court that lawyers, from both sides, we seek as many ways as possible.
The Attorney General of this administration said something like that.
That is what I'm telling you. That lawyers from both sides or representatives of both sides, we try as much as possible to look for ways to ensure there is minimal damages and the outcome of the court case is favorable and fair to all. So part of the method they employ is out-of-court settlement. So I won't deny that there could have been, some of these steps being taken to ensure that we had out-of-court settlement, because this administration was particularly very interested in conducting local government elections. So we felt that one could have, was like some plug in the wheel of our progress. So I won't deny that there could have been some process steps like that. But maybe, as we have seen, it wasn't achieved, for one reason or the other, which speaks to the fact that we have what we have as the situation today. But like I said, the current situation is not particularly exciting. It's not as if this would have been the design of the government if left with an option, but it is what it is, because it's a child of necessity.
Mr. Abdullateef, thank you. Please, you said that when you talk about the government, you said he's the most competent, he's the most experienced. You said one other thing.
Most credible candidate.
Most credible
at the moment.
At the moment. But this government, your government, rode to power on the mantra of vote together. Immediately after the emergence of this administration, the house fell apart. And today, almost every candidate from every party, almost every, from the Otoge mantra, and we have a professor running against your principal. We have a trained economist running against your principal. We have a trained and successful public administrator running against your principal. What do you think the government, your principal, has, apart from the fact that he has been the governor before them? What other quality will you count for him? I've told you now that we have a professor.
I understand you. Before, let me take you down the memory lane. I know it is not, not talked about enough, but as a matter of fact, my principal, the governor of Kwara State, has fought for and won his place in the history of this country. He is today, by God's grace, the first person to export fuel out of this country with the name of his company, First Fuel. That's an achievement, right? A fantastic achievement for someone who was a businessman and a major player in the oil and gas sector. A lot of people might also not know he was a popular investor in sports in this country before his emergence as the governor of Kwara State. So he's, by the grace of God, the late Mutawali of Ilorin, Isiaq Abdulkadir, which speaks to the fact that he comes from a family that has an history of service to this state and country in general. So we can say he's fantastically imbued with values of honesty, value of compassion, and deep skills of service to the state and country. And you also might want to look around and see that my governor, the governor of Kwara State, several times has proven that he is someone who is driven by love for the ordinary people. Before he was the governor of Kwara State, he was already sponsoring people with disability with Brazil and some other writing materials to ensure or to aid their learning and reading ability before he was governor of Kwara State. So when you ask me what are the qualities that stand him out as a candidate apart from being the governor, I will tell you that the key qualities, the key traits that makes any good leader are competency, credibility, character, and for me, he has been able to prove all his life that he is a competent man by the virtue of his success as a businessman in the oil and gas sector. He is also being verified as a credible person because he comes from a family, that is most renowned in the state and country today. We also can also say that he is compassionate because of his history of philanthropy, especially for the people living with disability before his emergence as the governor of the state. So what other qualities are you looking at? He's also deeply exposed. He has traveled, almost all the continent of the world. The governor has been to almost all the continent of the world. I say that as a matter of fact. So when you are talking about exposure, he's one of the most exposed you can see out there. So I don't know any other quality you might want to look out for, but I put it to you, like I said earlier, that the governor of Kwara State, Madam Ibraheem is the most competent, most credible, most compassionate, for the job, and most fitting for the job of the governor of the state in 2023. And the facts are there for everyone to see.
Actually, I came around, I think, at the age of, before his 30, had his master's in international accounting, and started his job. These are the things that are very valuable. You can go anywhere. In the CV, he has it there, and he was on radio, and we've listened to him. He talked about his plans. He talked about what he wants to do. Alhaji Yama, he's one of the best students in his class, and then he was in the mainstream. Mainstream industries in Nigeria at a very, very tender age. He became a general manager at 30. And Professor Ibraheem, a professor, has been a VC, has been a governing council chairman, has been a director in one of the most important parastatals to the unity of this country, and he performed very well. None of us would deny that. And Alhaji is a philanthropist. I would say that I do not know much about his beginning, but we see he's prided as the Alanume of Kwara State and other states. He's a pharmacist, a very successful one. Apart from being a professional, what are the trainings? What are the things you see? He's competent. The family. When we talk about family, we have Alhaji Hakim Lawal coming from the family of the former governor, which we cannot dispute his capacity. A very wealthy one is a very wealthy one in his own right. Alhaji Yama is a very wealthy one in his own right. Alhaji Gobiri is a very wealthy one in his own right. But Professor Abdullateef has said that he has always been a civil servant all his life, and he has never been there to enrich himself, which means riches may not appeal too much to him. So, what would you say to that?
Well, acknowledge all the achievement of all the candidates that are jostling for the position of governor in 2023. But my point is, what the people of Kwara State need is someone that combines competency, character, experience, and exposure. Because we believe that is someone who can do this job. And out of these people, I do not see anyone who has been governor before. And
the governor was not a governor before.
Yeah, but it's a different ballgame now. So it's an advantage anywhere in the world.
Okay. It's an advantage.
So that's why I'm telling you that by that yardstick alone, he can say that look, I'm the most experienced for this
governor.
So now
the governor in our backyard.
You want to say
the first time governor in our backyard was just defeated.
Well, that's his lot. For the lot of my own governor and for the people of Kwara State, the best man for the job, the most experienced for the job out of the candidates we have on offer today is Governor Ibraheem Abdulkadir. So I'm sure they will naturally gravitate towards it.
I need more than 2 hours more. Not even I need more than 2 hours more with you. But when next I have you, I want to have somebody from the other side. It seems
I'll be most happy to be around. In fact, you can make it tomorrow, anywhere, any day.
It seems I'm the one on the other side. Thank you very much, our viewers. That has been a very lengthy one, very educating and entertaining one. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for granting us this very important on this. It has been a very, very scarce quality to get to the studio. Only my only my producer will know what we went through to get him here. It's not as if he's saying we can do another one tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, maybe 2024. Thank you very much, our viewers. It's been a very lengthy one. We hope will give us the opportunity to have him with some other persons from the other side. Thank you very much. We wish you very, very happy New Year. I remember myself Abdulkadir to have Isiaq once again too. Have a lovely day. See you next week.